Hey everyone, Nathan here from JS Powersports, and I was going to tell you a little bit about pop-off pressure and something that's commonly forgotten in the entire industry when testing it. So first off, you want to use a gauge that reads approximately the lowest. How do I say this right? If you're supposed to pop off around 22, you want a gauge that reads really accurate between 20, 25 up to 30. There's other gauges out there like this one here that reads all the way up to 100, but that's going to not give you quite the fine tuning that you may need for some of these carbs. The second thing is when you're rebuilding carbs, we just got this part. I just pulled the covers off of these to check out what's going on with these customers' carbs, because he said they're not working right on the ski at all. And the very first thing we notice is these diaphragms are in backwards. They need to be like this. Okay, so what commonly happens when people test pop off, and you have to plug your return line, which is up here on this set of carbs. It's usually the highest line on the carb, as they would be mounted on the ski. This one I got a zip tie on here. That way, if we pump it too high and it blasts off, it's easier to find. Doesn't go as far as that rubber projectile there shooting out of an assault carburetor. Anyways, some of you guys will get that. Pop off gauge here. Going to plug that in, pump it up. We're gonna open up this. We're gonna shoot a little lube down here first, so that there's always some type of lube on the needle and seat to help it seal. We're gonna start pumping it carefully and slowly, and we're gonna look. And there's a separate video out there, but we're gonna look real careful around the edge. Right. Let me get the pick so I can get down in here closer. Right down in this area here. And we're going to make sure that it's not leaking or bubbling from there, because that would be an indicator of bad needle and seat O-rings. And the metric ones that come in these kits and so on, they're okay for a while, but it seems like the fuels always shrink them down. So we sell a thicker than stock set here at JS Powersports that work better and go in there, and they stay sealed a lot longer than the metric ones that come in these kits. They'll still work, but you just have to go in once in a while and check them and so on if you're having issues. So you wet this down, you start pumping this up carefully. You don't have any bubbles here. You get to the desired level, or you start getting up there. The typical thing to do is to throw a rag or something over here so it doesn't blast off in your eyes. Of course, you can wear safety glasses and stuff too if you're smart enough to put them on. Then you hit the desired, let's say on these it's 22, it's going to go psst, and it's going to blast this up for a second, and you're going to smell fuel. And of course, if you're not in a well-ventilated area and your heater's on, blowing on you, you could just start a fire. That'd be great. Okay, now, this is where it gets tricky. You can get this set at 22 all day long. Here's where you change the factor. You put in your bent up, messed up diaphragm, old diaphragm, whatever, or possibly even the new one. Then you put your cover on here, and you throw it back on the ski. That's where everyone's going wrong. You need to test it again now, with the diaphragm in, with the cover on. Put at least a couple bolts in here, and now test it and see if it's popping off at 22 again at 22. And then when it pops off, it should only bleed down to say 16 or 18 on that first pump that pops it over the 22, and then it bleeds down just a hair. What I've seen many times when this stuff's all messed up, bent up, dented up, dinged up, whatever, this arm's at the wrong level, is it'll pop, and then it will bleed all the way down to say 2 psi or something. Well, if that's happening when you're running your ski, you're going to have a rich condition the whole time. Sometimes, and I'm sure other people have seen this too, especially professionals, there are rough edges on the needles in here, and the needle can actually catch on the side of the brass seat that's in there, and it will cause it to stick open like that. So you can go in and file down the very, very front edges very carefully to make sure there's no burrs or anything on there, or just replace the whole needle and seat assembly so that doesn't happen. Sometimes these arms get bent in weird positions, and that'll cause it to stick or hold it up here or whatever. And sometimes people don't get this pin on this arm, the pin all the way down inside there. So the pin's like halfway up, the thing's cockeyed, and sometimes that can cause it to bind up. So all these things play a role, but if you check over things really carefully, especially when you're in a carburetor, because this is nitpicky little stuff, the smallest little fuel leak changes everything. Make sure all this stuff is installed correctly, that the spring is in here, way down in here where it's supposed to be, and not clear up here in the arm or bent or something. And that all this is working right, and your pop-off is working. 22 now, you put everything back together, still at 22, it pops, it drops to 16, 18, whatever, and stays there. Then you know you're good. But this is missed so many times by so many people that I thought we should probably cover it here, so that you guys can be out riding, having a blast, instead of in the garage fixing your ski and swearing up a storm and scaring the nuns nearby. Anyways, if you like our content, hit like, subscribe, we'll bring you some more.